to help a friend solve a small problem. At first, it seems innocent. You offer advice, lend a hand, or even do things for them. But what happens when this becomes a pattern? Over time, the help that was meant to empower your friend turns them into someone who struggles to act independently. What are the signs of excessive help? Deprivation of learning opportunities. Constant assistance prevents a person from facing challenges and finding solutions on their own. Creating dependency. People start to take your help for granted, losing confidence in their own abilities. Lack of boundaries. You notice that your personal time and energy are consistently drained by others' tasks. Neglecting your own needs, sacrificing your well-being for others can lead to burnout. How does excessive help lead to dependency? When someone continually relies on your assistance, they stop recognizing their own capabilities. This fosters a mindset of helplessness. They think, why bother trying when there's always someone to solve it for me? At first, it seems innocent. You offer advice, lend a hand, or even do things for them. But what happens when this becomes a pattern? Over time, the help that was meant to empower your friend turns them into someone who struggles to act independently. What are the signs of excessive help? Deprivation of learning opportunities. Constant assistance prevents a person from facing challenges and finding solutions on their own. Creating dependency. People start to take your help for granted, losing confidence in their own abilities. Lack of boundaries. You notice that your personal time and energy are consistently drained by others' tasks. Neglecting your own needs, sacrificing your well-being for others can lead to burnout. How does excessive help lead to dependency? When someone continually relies on your assistance, they stop recognizing their own capabilities. This fosters a mindset of helplessness. They think, why bother trying when there's always someone to solve it for me? At first, it seems innocent. Set boundaries. Define where your responsibility ends. For example, I can help you find a solution, but I won't do it for you. Encourage independence. Instead of providing direct help, ask questions like, how do you see a solution? Or, what would you do if I weren't here? Focus on support. Say things like, I believe you can handle this. Sometimes people just need to know they're not alone. How does Stoic philosophy help develop strength and independence? Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control. It's a philosophy rooted in self-discipline, acceptance, and independence. Control over emotions. Don't let worry for others dictate your actions. Acceptance. If someone doesn't want to change or learn, that's their choice, not your responsibility. Self-discipline. Support others, but not at the expense of your time, health, or energy. As Epictetus said, no one can help you more than you can help yourself. True assistance means not doing things for others, but showing them their own potential. What's next? Now that we've explored how excessive help leads to dependency, the next question arises, how do boundaries help maintain balance and protect yourself? Let's dive into that. Unexpected outcomes, the absence of clear boundaries. Why is it crucial to establish boundaries in relationships, especially when it comes to helping others? Have you ever felt like all your energy is being drained by helping others, leaving you with no time for yourself? This is a classic case of lacking boundaries. Without clear boundaries, people start to expect that you'll always be there to solve their problems. This disrupts your personal balance and emotional well-being. Boundaries are essential to protect your time, energy, and resources. They help you clearly define what you're willing to do and what you're not. Without them, helping others becomes an obligation that drains you and robs you of joy. How can the absence of boundaries lead to negative consequences, such as burnout at work? Imagine an employee who takes on all the extra tasks, helping colleagues with their responsibilities. Initially, they seem like a hero. They're valued, praised, and thanked. But over time, their desk is piled with work. There's no time for rest, and the gratitude fades. This employee starts to burn out. When we don't set boundaries, we're essentially saying my time and energy are limitless, but they're not. Without breaks and rest, productivity drops, and the person loses interest in what once brought them joy. Provide examples of situations where the lack of boundaries led to negative outcomes. Friendship. Your friend calls you every evening to vent about their problems. You listen, give advice, but nothing changes. Over time, you start avoiding these conversations, feeling drained. The friendship becomes a burden instead of a support. Work. A colleague constantly asks you to help with their reports. You agree, but notice your own tasks are suffering. Your boss is unhappy. and the colleague takes your help for granted. Family. A relative constantly asks you to solve their financial problems. You help, but notice it only exacerbates their dependency. What are the benefits of setting boundaries for both parties? When you set boundaries, you show others that you respect your time and resources. This inspires them to do the same. For you, you conserve energy. Now you have the strength and time to focus on what's important to you. You avoid burnout. You clearly understand where your area of responsibility begins and ends. You learn to say no. This doesn't mean you're a bad person. It means you value yourself. For others, they learn independence. If you're not always around, they'll start finding solutions on their own. They respect your boundaries. People appreciate clarity and honesty. How can you set boundaries in a way that's effective and doesn't offend the other person? First, be honest. Clearly state what you're willing and not willing to do. For example, I'm happy to help with your project, but I can only dedicate an hour to it. Second, be kind. Don't set boundaries harshly or aggressively. Express that you value the relationship but need to maintain balance. For example, I want to help, but it's important for me to complete my tasks. How can we make this work? Third, be consistent. If you've set a boundary, stick to it. Don't let it blur or your words will lose their power. How does ethical philosophy help in setting boundaries and protecting personal space? Stoics teach us that we control only our thoughts, emotions, and actions. We can't change others' expectations or reactions, but we can control how we respond to them. Epictetus said, we cannot control external events, but we can control our reactions to them. Setting boundaries is your reaction to others' requests. Seneca advised, spend your time on what benefits you. If helping others harms your well-being, it's time to set boundaries. By setting boundaries, you not only protect yourself, but also set an example of healthy living. Now the question arises, why is self-care important for effectively helping others? Why self-care is a necessary condition for effective help to others? How can you pour from an empty cup? Self-care is not selfishness. It's a fundamental condition to be useful to others. If you're exhausted, drained of energy, or emotionally burned out, any help you provide will either be ineffective or even harmful. Imagine a mother who devotes herself 24/7 to her child, forgetting to eat, sleep, or simply rest. Eventually, she becomes irritable and no longer provides the support her child needs. To be a good parent, friend, or colleague, you must start with caring for your own well-being. What consequences can arise if you neglect your own needs while focusing on helping others? Ignoring your needs puts you on a path to physical and emotional exhaustion. The results can be dire emotional burnout. When you give everything without reserve, you start to feel emptiness and meaninglessness in your efforts. Reduced productivity. Exhaustion leads to poor concentration and an inability to handle daily tasks. Relationship issues. Constant self-sacrifice causes irritation and resentment and can lead to others taking you for granted. Caring for others is important, but if you forget about yourself, you become less useful to those around you. Provide examples of how fatigue and stress caused by neglecting your own needs can negatively affect your ability to help others. A company leader. Imagine a manager who always takes on more work than they can handle. Constant overtime and stress lead to irritability, poor decision-making, and a loss of confidence in their team. Ultimately, the entire work suffers. A single mother. A woman who devotes herself entirely to her children, ignoring her own needs, becomes irritable and emotionally unavailable to them. Instead of support, children face coldness and fatigue. A volunteer. A volunteer who works around the clock without rest eventually falls ill and can no longer help. Their good intentions result in them becoming completely useless. How does Stoic philosophy justify the importance of self-care? Stoics teach that to benefit others, a person must be in harmony with themselves. Marcus Aurelius said, if you want to do something for the world, start with yourself. Self-care includes physical health, adequate sleep, proper nutrition, and regular exercise, emotional balance, control over emotions, awareness of your reactions, and working towards inner harmony. Time boundaries, the ability to say no when your resources are depleted. Self-care does not contradict helping others, it enhances your ability to help. How to find a balance between helping others and caring for yourself. Prioritize your needs. Ensure you feel strong enough to be a support for others. Learn to delegate. You don't have to take on everything. Give others the opportunity to participate and share the load. Set boundaries. Clearly define how much time and energy you can dedicate to helping and what you reserve for yourself. Regularly recharge. Find time for rest and recovery, whether it's a walk, meditation, or simply reading a book. Now, reflect. How often do you sacrifice yourself for others? Perhaps it's time to ask yourself, what can I do for myself right now? Meanwhile, in the next section, we'll discuss why financial help without limits can be dangerous. The dark side of kindness, unrestricted money giving, why mindless financial help can be harmful. Have you noticed how easy it is to give money instead of delving into the problem? On the surface, it seems noble, but sometimes generosity turns into chaos for both the giver and the receiver. When we give money mindlessly, we risk creating dependency. The person receiving the help gets used to always being bailed out and stops seeking their own solutions. Moreover, we can harm ourselves financially, emotionally, or in our relationships with loved ones. What are the risks of financial help without clearly defined boundaries and conditions? The risks are multifaceted financial dependency. The person receiving money starts relying on you instead of solving their problems. This hinders their development of independence. Relationship breakdown. Financial help can cause resentment if expectations don't align. For example, the person may perceive help as an obligation and a refusal as betrayal. Burnout. Constant lending of money depletes you morally and financially, which can lead to irritation and disappointment. Ignoring the problem. Money may be a temporary patch, but not a solution to the underlying issue. Provide examples of situations where financial help led to negative outcomes, such as dependency or relationship breakdown. A friend in debt. You lend a friend money to pay off a loan, but they borrow again, knowing you'll bail them out. In the end, they don't change their habits, and you feel used. A relative not working. You regularly help a relative who doesn't try to find a job. Instead of gratitude, you start receiving complaints that it's not enough. Financial support for a partner. You cover all your partner's expenses, but instead of gratitude, tension arises in the relationship as the partner stops feeling responsible for the shared budget. What principles should be followed when providing financial help to ensure it's truly beneficial and doesn't cause harm? Assess your capabilities. Help only when it doesn't jeopardize your financial situation. Set boundaries. Determine how much and how often you're willing to help, and stick to this rule. Demand accountability. If you lend money, discuss repayment terms or conditions for help. This motivates the recipient to solve the problem rather than avoid it. Offer alternatives. Instead of money, help with advice, resources, or opportunities that will help the person become self-sufficient. How does Stoic philosophy help develop a sensible approach to managing finances and providing financial help? Stoics teach that true wealth is not in the amount of money, but in the absence of unnecessary desires and debts. Seneca said, "He is rich not who has much, but who is content with little." These principles can be applied to financial help. Control your emotions. Don't give money out of guilt or fear of judgment. Stay mindful. Remember that your goal is to support the person's development, not to become their permanent wallet. Strengthen self-discipline. Decide for yourself when and how you're willing to help and stick to it. Now, think. Every time you give money, are you helping or making the person weaker? In the next section, we'll explore why good intentions without the necessary knowledge can sometimes do more harm than good. Help without capability, misguided good intentions. Why is it important to recognize your limitations before offering help? We all want to seem useful, especially when someone needs support. But sometimes our best intentions lead to the worst results. Helping where we lack the necessary knowledge or skills risks not just failing to help, but even exacerbating the situation. Recognizing your limitations is not a sign of weakness, but a manifestation of wisdom. Before offering help, ask yourself, do I have the necessary competence to truly improve the situation? What negative consequences can arise from help provided without sufficient competence? Worsening the situation. If you intervene in a problem without full understanding, you can make it even more complex. Loss of trust. The person you tried to help may no longer trust your advice or actions. Resource expenditure. You waste your time, energy, or money, and the result is contrary to your expectations. Psychological harm. Incorrect help can damage the emotional state of the person, intensifying their fears or disappointment. How does Socrates quote, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing," relate to the topic of providing help? Socrates reminded us that acknowledging our ignorance is the first step toward true wisdom. Help based on false confidence is often harmful. If you recognize your limitations, you can direct the person to a more competent specialist or offer real support instead of empty promises. For example, instead of advising on treatment you know little about, encourage the person to see a doctor. Or, if your friend is facing financial problems but you're not an expert, it's better to help them find a consultant. What principles are important for mindful help based on a real understanding of your capabilities? Honesty. Admit if you don't know the answer or can't help. It's much better than promising the impossible. Humility. Don't hesitate to ask for help from those who are more competent. True kindness lies in the ability to delegate, guide. Instead of trying to solve everything yourself, help the person find resources that will truly help them. Emotional support. Even if you can't solve the problem, you can be there and show genuine concern. In which situations is it better to direct the person to a more competent specialist rather than trying to solve their problem yourself? Health. If someone comes to you with questions about treatment or diagnosis, it's better to encourage them to see a doctor rather than offer your own guesses. Finances. Don't try to give advice on investments or debts if you're not knowledgeable about these issues. Psychological help. If a friend is depressed or anxious, it's important to support them emotionally but also recommend seeking professional help. How to develop a mindful approach to providing help so that it benefits rather than harms. Stay mindful. Understand that not every problem can be solved, and that's okay. Develop empathy. Being there and listening is already a huge support. Respect others' decisions. Don't try to take on someone else's responsibility. Sometimes the best way to help is to give the person space for independent actions. So, think, when you help, are you acting based on knowledge and experience or simply out of a desire to help at any cost? In the next section, we'll explore how helping others can become a way to avoid your own problems. Masking personal problems, how can helping others serve as a way to avoid your own problems? Let's be honest. Sometimes helping others is a way to distract yourself. It's easier to focus on someone else's concerns than to face the chaos in your own life. Helping becomes a kind of mask, hiding unresolved internal conflicts. You might think you're acting nobly, but in reality, it's a form of escape. While you're saving someone else, your own troubles don't disappear. They just wait for the moment to remind you again, sometimes growing to threatening proportions. What negative consequences can this behavior have in the long term? Accumulation of problems. Your mask works only temporarily. The longer you ignore your problems, the harder they will be to solve. Emotional burnout. Endlessly switching to others' concerns drains you, leaving no resources to help even yourself. Superficial relationships. When help comes from a desire to run away from yourself, it becomes less sincere, which can undermine trust between you and others. Loss of self-identity. Constant avoidance makes you lose touch with your own desires and goals. How does Marcus Aurelius' quote, "Don't spend time wondering how to live another life. Make the one you live better." Help understand the importance of solving your own problems. These words of Marcus Aurelius remind us that you can't change the world if you don't start with yourself. Helping others to avoid your own problems only postpones the inevitable. Wouldn't it be better to invest the same energy in strengthening your inner state? Solving your own problems makes you stronger and wiser, and this strength will allow you to help others more consciously and effectively. How to distinguish a genuine desire to help from an attempt to hide from your own difficulties? Ask yourself a question. Ask, why do I want to help? Is it a sincere desire or a way to escape what worries me? Check your emotions. If you feel anxiety or fatigue, it may be a sign that you're avoiding something important. Observe the pattern. If you often find yourself as a rescuer and it becomes a habit, you may be using help as an escape tool. Evaluate the results. Does this help you feel better in the long term, or do the problems only grow? How does Stoic philosophy help achieve inner harmony and balance necessary to help others from a position of strength and self-sufficiency? Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is within our control and to let go of what we cannot change. It's a philosophy of self-sufficiency that emphasizes the importance of inner work. Reflect on your emotions. Understand what prompts your desire to help and honestly look at your motives. Develop self-discipline. Instead of distracting yourself with others' concerns, work on your weaknesses. Accept reality. Don't try to solve all the problems around you. Sometimes the best way to help is to be an example of inner balance. Find balance. Help from an abundance of your strength, not from depletion. First, fill your cup so you have something to share. Ultimately, true help begins with caring for yourself. If you're not in harmony, your help won't benefit you or others. Now think, are you helping out of a genuine desire or to avoid facing yourself? In the next section, we'll discuss how inattention in helping can make it useless or even harmful. Consequences of inattention in providing help. Why can inattention make help ineffective or even harmful? Imagine trying to fix a complex mechanism with your eyes closed. That's what help without attention looks like. We often act on autopilot, thinking we know what the other person needs without delving into the essence of their problem. As a result, our actions may not only fail to help, but also exacerbate the situation. Inattention is not just a lack of concentration. It is a refusal to see the real person with their unique circumstances, history, and needs. When we help inattentively, we risk offering a solution that is completely unsuitable for the specific situation. How does Stephen Covey's quote, "Most people do not listen to understand, they listen to reply," relate to the topic of providing help? This wise quote hits the core of the problem of inattentive help. When someone shares their problem, we often already formulate a response instead of truly listening. We rush to offer a solution without understanding the depth of the problem. It's like a doctor prescribing medication without hearing all the symptoms. Such an approach is not only ineffective, but also potentially dangerous. True help begins with a deep understanding of the situation. What active listening techniques help you better understand the needs of the person you want to help?
Ask clarifying questions.
Don't be afraid to admit that you don't understand something. It's better to ask a stupid question than to make an incorrect assumption. Paraphrase. Repeat in your own words what you heard to ensure correct understanding. Note emotions. Pay attention not only to words, but also to tone, gestures, and facial expressions. Don't interrupt. Give the person a chance to fully express their thoughts, even if the solution seems obvious to you. How to develop attentiveness and concentration to make help truly useful. Practice mindfulness. Learn to be in the present moment, turning off internal dialogue and judgmental thoughts. Create the right environment. Eliminate distractions when someone needs your help. Develop empathy. Try to truly feel what the other person is experiencing. Take pauses. Don't rush to conclusions and solutions. Give yourself time to process what you've heard. How does Stoic philosophy help develop attentiveness in providing help? Stoics taught that attentiveness is not just a skill, but a way of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Our life is what our thoughts make it." This is a reminder that the quality of our help directly depends on the quality of our attention. Stoic principles for attentive help. Be fully present in the moment. Don't let the past or future distract you from the present. Accept reality as it is. Don't impose your views on how things should be. Act consciously. Every decision should be the result of careful consideration, not an automatic response. Think, how many times have you truly listened? And how many times have you just waited for your turn to speak? In the next block, we'll explore how help can become a tool for controlling another person. Help as a tool of control. How can help be used to control another person? Sometimes behind the mask of kindness lies a desire to control. This happens when help becomes not an act of support, but a tool of manipulation. The person providing help creates dependency, using their support as a lever to influence behavior, decisions, and even the life path of another person. Such help is often accompanied by phrases like, "After everything I've done for you," or, "If it weren't for me, you wouldn't be able to." Behind these words lies not a sincere desire to support, but a desire to assert one's power and significance. What negative consequences does this controlling approach have for both parties? For the helper, distortion of one's own motives, constant tension from the need to maintain control, destruction of sincere relationships, loss of trust from others. For the recipient of help, loss of independence, underestimated self-esteem, feeling of guilt and obligation, fear of making one's own decisions. Provide examples of controlling behavior in various contexts in the family. A parent financially helps an adult child, but demands a report on every decision. A spouse takes on all household responsibilities, but uses this as an argument in any dispute at work. A manager offers help with projects, but then demands personal loyalty. A colleague helps with tasks, but constantly reminds of this when new projects are distributed. How to distinguish a desire to help from a desire to control? Ask yourself honest questions. Are you willing to help without expecting anything in return? Do you allow the person to refuse your help? Do you respect the person's right to use the help as they see fit? Do you not use past help as an argument in conflicts? How does Stoic philosophy help develop self-control and avoid attempts to control others? Stoics teach us an important principle. The only thing we can truly control is our own thoughts and actions. Epictetus said, "Do not try to make events happen as you want them to, but wish them to happen as they do." By applying Stoic principles, we can recognize the limits of our influence, learn to let go of control over others' decisions, focus on the purity of our intentions, develop sincere respect for the freedom of choice of others. Remember, true help liberates, not binds. It gives wings, not chains. In the next block, we'll explore how social pressure can distort our desire to help others. When help becomes an obligation, the influence of social pressure. How can social pressure force a person to help others? We live in a society where helping others is often perceived as a moral imperative. How can you refuse? Aren't you ashamed? You must help. These phrases are familiar to everyone. Under the weight of public opinion, people often provide help not because they genuinely want or can, but because they fear condemnation. This is especially noticeable in professions related to caring for others, doctors, teachers, social workers. Society expects constant readiness to help from them, forgetting that they are also human with their own limitations and needs. What negative consequences can help provided under pressure have? Emotional burnout. When you help not from the heart but out of a sense of duty, it depletes you faster. Poor quality help. Acting under pressure, you are unlikely to pour your soul into the help. Resentment and irritation. Constantly suppressing your own desires for others' expectations generates negative emotions. Loss of boundaries. Over time, it becomes increasingly difficult to distinguish between your genuine desire and imposed obligation. How does Mahatma Gandhi's quote, "Truth never damages a cause that is just," help understand the importance of honesty in providing help? This wise thought reminds us, it's better to honestly acknowledge your limitations than to create an illusion of boundless readiness to help. The truth about your capabilities and desires may disappoint someone now, but it will prevent disappointment and resentment in the future. Being honest means showing respect to both yourself and others. It lays the foundation for healthy, transparent relationships where help comes from the heart, not fear of condemnation. How to learn to refuse help without fearing condemnation from others. Recognize your boundaries. Clearly define what you can and want to do. Be straightforward but tactful. An honest refusal is better than an insincere agreement. Offer alternatives. If you can't help yourself, perhaps you know someone who can. Remember self-respect. Your right to care for yourself is as important as the needs of others. How does Stoic philosophy help develop resilience to social pressure? Stoics teach us an important principle. The opinions of others are beyond our control. Epictetus said, "Do not fear the disapproval of those whose approval does not matter." Stoic practices for resisting pressure develop an inner compass. Your values are more important than societal expectations. Accept imperfection. You are not obliged to meet others' ideas of a good person. Practice courage. Each refusal is a training of your ability to be true to yourself. Cultivate calmness. Someone else's dissatisfaction is their choice, not your responsibility. The next time you feel pressure to help, ask yourself, is it really your desire, or are you just afraid of condemnation? In the next block, we'll discuss why inconsistency in help can do more harm than an honest refusal. The danger of inconsistency in help. Why can inconsistency in providing help be problematic? Imagine a bridge where some supports are reliable and others are shaky. That's what inconsistent help looks like. Today you're ready to move mountains to help, and tomorrow you don't answer calls. Such instability can do more harm than complete lack of support. Inconsistency creates uncertainty and anxiety. A person doesn't know what to expect, whether they can rely on your help or should look for other options. It's like a seesaw, up and down, with no chance to gain stability. How does inconsistency affect trust between people? Destroys confidence. People stop relying on your promises, even if you're sincere. Creates tension. Uncertainty about your support generates stress and worry. Undermines relationships. Trust is built on predictability, and inconsistency destroys this foundation. Forms defensive mechanisms. People start looking for backup options, even when you're ready to help. Provide examples of inconsistent help and its negative consequences. In the family, a parent is overly protective one moment and completely absent the next. A partner helps only when they're in a good mood. Promises of help are fulfilled selectively at work. A manager unevenly distributes their attention, and support a mentor actively engages in training one moment and disappears for weeks. The next, a colleague helps only when it's beneficial to them. How do Epictetus's and Lincoln's quotes emphasize the importance of consistency? Epictetus said, "Stability and regularity are the most important things in life." This reminds us that the true value of our actions is revealed in their constancy. A small but regular help can be more valuable than grand but one-time gestures. Lincoln emphasized, "Be consistent in small things, for it is the foundation of trust." This wisdom shows that trust is built not on great achievements, but on consistency in everyday actions. How does Stoic philosophy help develop discipline and responsibility? Stoics teach us that a person's character is revealed not in individual actions, but in the consistency of their actions. Their principles help develop self-discipline. Do what must be done, regardless of mood and circumstances. Responsibility. Understand that our promises create expectations in others. Stability. Don't let emotions and external factors influence our obligations. Awareness. Take on only those promises we can fulfill consistently. Practical recommendations. Make promises cautiously, but fulfill them unwaveringly. Create systems and routines for regular help. Openly discuss your capabilities and limitations. It's better to do less, but consistently than a lot. But unpredictably, ask yourself, can you sustain the proposed level of help in the long term? If not, perhaps it's worth reconsidering your promises to make them more realistic and achievable. In conclusion, we'll discuss how to combine all these principles into a practical guide for providing effective and ethical help. Throughout our discussion, we've explored several key ideas that help us understand how to provide help more consciously and effectively without harming ourselves or others. Importance of mindful help. Understanding your motives and limitations before offering help. Setting boundaries. Protecting your time, energy, and resources by clearly defining what you are willing to do and what you are not. Self-care. The necessity of caring for your own well-being to be useful to others. Self-control. Developing the ability to control your emotions and actions to provide consistent and effective help. Resistance to social pressure. Learning to say no without fearing condemnation, based on your true capabilities and desires. Consistency. Providing help in a stable and predictable manner to build trust and reliability. The principles of Stoicism can significantly aid in providing more mindful and effective help. By applying these principles, we can ensure that our kindness is backed by reason and prudence. Remember, true help liberates and empowers rather than binds and controls. If any of these ideas resonate with you, please leave a comment and share your thoughts. This is important for everyone. Subscribe to the channel and don't forget to like the video. My name is Alex, and if this is your first visit to the channel, I warmly invite you to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss the inspiring topics we'll be diving into. If you've made it this far, it's a clear sign that you're deeply committed to your personal growth, and that deserves serious recognition. To connect with those who are truly on this path of self-discovery, let's start a conversation. Comment with the phrase "I love wisdom" and share where you're listening from. I'm genuinely excited to learn which part of the world you're tuning in from and to build a community of like-minded seekers. Take it one step further. Share this video with your friends, family, or anyone who could benefit from its message. You never know how much of a positive impact it might have on their lives. Together, let's spark meaningful change, one conversation at a time. Life is a precious journey, and every day is an opportunity to live it fully. Sometimes all we need is a gentle reminder that today is a gift waiting to be unwrapped. See you in the next video. And until then, remember, live in the present, not tomorrow. Seize every moment to be the best version of yourself.